Ngā mihi nunui kia koutou. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of deconstruction work drawing on Erica Burman's seminal book, Deconstructing Developmental Psychology, which provides a synopsis of Western discourses around bringing up babies and the variability in childcare advice across time. These often competing discourses around what is best for babies and what should be done provide an important backdrop from which to speculate about the cultural content of, and indeed the importance accorded to, childhood, parenting and teaching. Ken Robinson's video Changing Education Paradigms discusses some of the assumptions of the social structures underpinning Western models of education. The academic drivers of the Enlightenment period, where scientific positivistic thinking was privileged, and the economic imperatives of the Industrial Revolution saw education becoming so abstracted from cultural communities that for many young children today it's actually irreverent and indeed totally irrelevant for many children. The video provides an excellent and easy to follow backdrop for further investigation into the effects of colonisation of the Pacific. So, this section in chapter 4 of Erica's book revisits some of the themes of the last 300 years, but focuses particularly on the last 100 years. As part of the cultural narratives, discourses of the child, and as a corollary, discourses of the adult, define who we are, why we are, and where we are going. In short, cultural narratives or discourses shape the way we think, what we believe in, our views about children, and how they ought to be nurtured or taught, and indeed our lives. These discourses characterise our relationships with children. Burman suggests that underpinning the ages and stages theories, the child exists in relation to other age and stage categories, primarily in relation to and in binary with the category of the adult. She asks the critical question, do children grow or are they made? Which is a variant of the nature versus nurture debate, which has dominated educational discourse for the last 100 years. So bearing in mind that throughout history there have been competing interests and overlaps in the theories and the models which existed, I call them the swings and roundabouts of educational theory, the various theories and models, religious, medical, mental hygiene, behaviourist, developmental, sociocultural, ecological, have not been bound up in discrete little blocks, but often in contrasting models which both coexist and compete with each other simultaneously. They inherit the remnants of and are shaped by what has gone before. They are connected to and spring from the values and beliefs of the cultures that they reflect. As Burman puts it, whether childhood is cast in terms of nostalgia, the child being the angelic child, or in terms of the original sinner, repugnant child, having to be baptised to eradicate original sin, it, quote, is a repository of social representations that functions only by virtue of the relationship with other age and stage categories. So the following is but an historical glimpse into some of the prevailing conditions, theories and models which shape current theories and practices of and about children. We have the first model, which is the religious model that prevailed from the 1750s to the 1850s approximately, which focused on preparing children for death. Since infant mortality rates were very high, it then became the parents' responsibility to strive to ensure that their child's life in the hereafter was secured. A battle then ensued to save the child's soul, which for some meant that there was little scope for indulgent parenting. Burman cites Susanna Wesley, who is the mother of John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist Church, quote, "Break his will now and his soul will live." So, following on from that religious morality came the decline of the infant mortality rate and a shift from that morality to medical authorities. This trend in the declining infant mortality rate was was brought about with the help of our very own Sir Truby King, who was the son of one of the founders of the Colonising Society in 1840. In about by 1912, Truby King, ably supported by his wife, was devoting more and more of his energies to the work of the Plunket Society, which he founded. And in 1913, he was appointed to represent New Zealand at the Child Welfare Conference in London. 4 years later, he was invited to establish in England work similar to that of the Plunket Society. So we get the shift here from the medical authority to mental hygiene and the emerging psychology, which partook of medicine's authority, promising earthly survival with adherence to scientific authority. So Sir Truby King applied his principles of rearing cattle to children, culminating in the following view, and I quote, "The establishment of perfect regularity of habits initiated by feeding and cleaning by the clock is the ultimate foundation of all-round obedience. Granted good organic foundations, truth and honour can be built into the edifice as it grows." So there you are. You get the child as referred to there as it, and objectified, and as if you could, as if the child was some mechanical being and able to be shaped in this sort of way. So with that shift came the preoccupation of behaviourism principles to childcare, advocating these regularity of habits, giving rise to what has been referred to as I said before, the mechanical child. So the authoritarian religious expert gave rise to the authoritarian medical expert, emphasising children's needs and natural development being anything but natural, and a less punitive approach advised in dealing with children. Within that time came the rise of the development of play and tending to emotional as well as physical needs. So the mental hygiene morality gave rise to behaviourist approaches with the rise of developmental psychology in the mid-1900s. And here we have, and you will know these faces, Jean Piaget and Lev Vygotsky, who had a huge impact on that shift. But Erica Burman points out that the current vogue of the super nanny has stated it's really a backlash to the more permissive type parenting in favour of a more punitive parent-centred approaches as super nanny actually enters into homes. Interestingly, these trends coincide with childhood conduct disorders such as ADHD, which the video also covers, and the location of the problem within the parent-child relationship rather than exploring any interaction of centre or school-based or societally-based issues such as racism or bullying in schools. So coming through to the current time frame, we have the developmental shift competing with more socio-cultural models of childcare and the changing images of the child. But the three major themes that I have been putting up today is that the contrasting models frequently coexist. There are continuities between the images at different times, and indeed some of them are still hanging around today. Can you think of any? And the debates around the nature of the child have been central to the ways in which the state has interacted with and regulated its citizens. The second theme through today's lecture is changing education paradigms, drawing on this video of Ken Robinson. In this video, he discusses some of the assumptions of social structure underpinning Western models of education and what underpins the academic drivers of the Enlightenment and the economic imperatives of the Industrial Revolution. As a consequence, these drivers and imperatives shaped views about what counts as knowledge, scientific positivistic knowledge being privileged, and people as being either logical thinkers or not, either smart or not, either academic or non-academic, and channeled accordingly. That led to the development and fine-tuning of curriculum, which was abstracted from communities and life experiences or culture, and channeling of people through the curriculum in a factory model school system, and the eventual, perhaps inescapable for most, anaesthetising of learners. So as a consequence, Ken Robinson is saying that many brilliant thinkers have been so anaesthetised in their schooling experiences that they think they're not, and that they have been and are being sedated in schools with curriculum content far too abstract for them to be able to make any sense of it, and especially in today's rapidly changing technologies. So the ramifications are indeed dire. Robinson offers interventions and explains what he means by changing education paradigms. So after completing the reading in Chapter 4 and watching the video, which are both on your Learn site, there are some activities, some critical questions in Activities 1 and 2 that I would like you to work through in the forum. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou, I tēnei wā.